next guest is a Grammy Award winner and a member of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Ladies and gentlemen, the great Bob Seger.
This artist began his career as a gritty rocker, much like other Michigan garage bands such as the Rationals and Mitch Ryder. However, he transformed into a pivotal figure in heartland rock during the 1970s. We're referring to Bob Seger, who infused the raw energy of Ryder's Detroit wheels with the rugged essence of garage rock. Adding his profound love for soul and R&B, Seger crafted a distinctly American sound that resonated with audiences worldwide. Join us as we delve into Seger's life, career, and his eventual retirement from the music scene. Seger's beginnings. Seger was born on May 6, 1945, at Henry Ford Hospital in Detroit, Michigan. He was the son of Charlotte and Stuart Seger, and by the time he had turned 5, his family had relocated to Ann Arbor, accompanied by his older brother, George. Despite his father's role as a medical technician for Ford Motor Company, music filled their home, with Seger exposed to various instruments from an early age. However, the harmony was disrupted by the constant arguments between his parents, leading to disturbances in their neighborhood. In 1956, when Seger was just 10, his father abruptly left for California, leaving the family to face financial hardships. But Seger didn't let these challenges bring him down. He attended Tappan Junior High School before graduating from Ann Arbor High School in 1963. There, he excelled in track and field. Amid the turmoil and instability in his life, Seger found peace in music, and he sometimes recalls Little Richard and Elvis Presley as his early influences. His passion for music reached an all-time high with the purchase of his first record, Come Go With Me by the Dell Vikings, a popular hit in 1957. All of this inspiration led to him diving right into the music scene himself, and soon he was about to become one of the greatest known music icons of his era. So let's go back to the start. Early career. His very first hits in 1961, a young Bob Seger stepped right into the Detroit music scene without any fears, all while he was fronting a band called the Decibels, alongside Pete Stanger and R.B. Hunter. Seger showed off his talents on guitar, piano, keyboards, and vocals. With his talents shining through in everything he did, his music career had officially begun. The fans' demo of The Lonely One, recorded at Del Shannon Studio, actually earned them a fleeting moment on the radio, which only lifted Seger's spirit to do even better. As the Decibels faded into memory, Seger found himself joining forces with the Town Criers, belting out tunes like Louie Louie to an audience that was completely mesmerized. Inspired by the soulful sounds of James Brown and the melodies of the Beatles, Seger's music expanded beyond anything he had ever imagined. Soon, he was fueled by the desire to make it big on the radio waves, but fate had other plans for Seger. He crossed paths with Doug Brown and his band, The Omens, and after joining them, Seger found himself sharing the spotlight with Brown. From there on, he lent his voice to R&B numbers, adding his signature style to the group's performances. Their collaboration yielded TGIF, which was the first ever officially released recording that Seger had ever been a part of. However, his joy was cut short, and controversy soon followed with their parody of Barry Sadler's The Ballad of the Green Berets, which landed them in hot water and forced the song's withdrawal from the market. While all that chaos was ongoing, Seger found an unexpected friend in Edward "Punch" Andrews, who would go on to become his future manager. Together with Dave Leone, they ran the Hideout franchise, which provided a platform for local talents to shine. Seger's creative abilities blossomed more than they ever had before, as he wrote songs for acts like the Mama Cats and the Mushrooms. This was when the world realized just how versatile Seger really is as a musician. Teaming up with Brown once again, Seger created East Side Story for the Underdogs, and even though the song failed to be successful the way his previous songs had, it was still a significant milestone. But from here on, things were about to change. A shift in his journey. This was The Last Heard. where things started to transform in the trajectory of Seger's music career, and it began when he took matters into his own hands and recorded East Side Story under his name. He was determined to make his mark, and while he left the Omens behind, he retained Brown as a producer. With the release of this rendition in January 1966 under the name Bob Seger and The Last Heard, his first big hit was loud and bold through Detroit, selling 50,000 copies locally and earning him a deal with Cameo Parkway Records. The Last Heard, comprising Pep Perrin, Carl Lagassa, and Dan Honecker, soon came together as Seger's band. They followed up with a string of singles, including Heavy Music, which gained traction in Canada and teased the U.S. charts. Yet just as their star began to rise, Cameo Parkway's closure threatened their flow in a way nothing had ever done before. But undeterred, Seger and his manager Punch looked for a new path, ultimately signing with Capitol Records in 1968 and rebirthing the band as the Bob Seger System. The transition saw Lagassa leave, replaced by Bob Schultz on keys. Their debut single, the politically charged 2+2 Hers, resonated locally, but struggled to find any real national footing. However, their luck turned with Ramblin' Gamblin' Man, a Michigan sensation that sent Seger up to national recognition. Believe it or not, this was his first significant chart success, and the triumph birthed an anonymous album which put Seger's burgeoning talent on display and featured a young Glenn Frey as well. Yet right in the middle of all that acclaim, chaos secretly brewed within the system. Singer-songwriter Tom Neam's dominance on their subsequent album Noah sparked criticism and internal conflicts, leading Seger to briefly leave music to pursue academia. But the setback couldn't keep him away for long, and Seger soon returned in 1970 for one final album with the System, Mongrel, which was made without Nieme and Schultz. Despite critical acclaim, Mongrel failed to achieve commercial success. Regardless, their impact was immortalized with their addition to the Michigan Rock and Roll Legends Hall of Fame in 2006. So, in the end, everything Seger faced to get to this point was well worth it. But that didn't mean that there wasn't more disappointment coming his way, did it? The depths of Seger's struggles, smoking ops. Ramblin' Gamblin' Man, the album that had managed to gather tons of success in 1969, soon faded into the background, and Mongrel simply didn't live up to everybody's expectations. Just like that, the System's once unbreakable bonds began to fray, and things became way too uncertain for them to continue making music as a group. It felt like Seger's career was about to end tragically, but that wasn't going to happen for many decades at that point. In the aftermath of this breakdown, Seger was at the hardest crossroads of his life, and this is when he started contemplating whether he needed to separate from the band and embark on his own unique track as a solo artist. With a heavy heart and quite a lot of desperation, he knew that he had to prove himself to the world. So in the year 1971, Seger revealed his first solo titled Brand New Morning. This was a beautiful, all-acoustic track, and Seger put it out there with some high hopes. But fate has always been a cruel thing. The album barely made a dent in the commercial aspect, and Seger knew that this failure wasn't going to be the last one. But did that stop him from creating more music? No. He was unaffected by defeat, but he knew that he had to try something else to make things work. This is when he forged an alliance with Teagarden and Van Winkle, and together they came up with a brilliant innovation in the form of Smokin' OP, a collection of covers released under Punch Andrews' own Palladium Records. Now, this wasn't an instant hit. The reception of these covers was lukewarm at best. Even though the album had some moments of pure brilliance, these included a rendition of Seger's own Heavy Music and another cover of Tim Hardin's If I Were a Carpenter. But here's the thing. Despite these fleeting moments of glory, Smokin' OPs failed to make it big in the eyes of the public, and soon this set of tracks was also lost. Then came a massive turning point. 1972 was a year that brought with it a brand new sense of purpose, and Seger said his goodbyes to Teagarden and Van Winkle. What he wanted was to get himself a new backing band that would actually help him reach his ambitions. So, from the heartland of Tulsa, Oklahoma, came out a group of musicians whose talents closely matched Seger's own, including the likes of Jamie Oldaker, Dick Sims, and Marcy Levy. Together, they created Back in '72, an album that held promise and was truly something out of the ordinary. But financial disputes created a mess and threatened to break apart the fragile, newly formed bonds that held the band together. Despite the strength of Seger's backup musicians, Back in '72 also failed to make a significant impact on the charts. By the end of '73, Seger was all alone once again, and his once loyal companions were all gone from his side. Still, a glimmer of hope remained, and soon this hope was about to materialize into something much more real. Finally, a breakthrough. Seger's new strategy involved a brand new ensemble of musicians backing him up, which eventually became known as the Silver Bullet Band. This group included guitarist Drew Abbott, drummer Charlie Allen Martin, keyboardist Rick Manasseh, bassist Chris Campbell, and saxophonist Alto Reed. And all of them were going to help Seger make his dreams and ambitions a reality. With their combined talents, Seger released the album Seven in 1974, which featured the hard rock anthem Get Out of Denver. This track fit right into the Detroit music scene like a puzzle, but its national impact was still pretty modest, peaking at number 80 on the charts. Still, it felt like a step in the right direction and was a clear sign that things were about to get better. The next year was a game-changing moment in Seger's career as he got back with Capitol Records, eventually coming out with the album Beautiful Loser, with the backing of the Silver Bullet Band once again, now made even better by new keyboardist Robin Robbins. The most famous tracks within this album included Seger's cover of Tina Turner's Nutbush City Limits, but it was Kathmandu that finally sent Seger right into the national spotlight once more. It was like he had finally hit the bull's eye with this track, as it became his first significant breakthrough since Ramblin' Gamblin' Man in 1968. Though falling just short of the top 40, Kathmandu got substantial airplay across the nation, especially in Seger's hometown of Detroit. Then in April 1976, Seger and the Silver Bullet Band released their magnum opus, an album titled Live Bullet, all of which was recorded over two of the most unforgettable nights at Detroit's Cobo Arena. This album completely captured the essence of Seger's live performances, featuring iconic covers of classics like Turn the Page and Nutbush City Limits, alongside earlier hits like Heavy Music and Ramblin' Gamblin' Man. Now, this album was a serious hit. Critic Dave Marsh praised Live Bullet as one of the greatest live albums ever made, as he just couldn't get enough of Seger's raw energy and undeniable charisma. The album's release propelled Seger to brand new heights of fame and fortune, and after years of struggle and defeat, you can say that it was well-deserved. But despite his growing popularity, Seger struggled with the stark realities of the music industry. A performance at the Pontiac Silverdome before a crowd of nearly 80,000 fans was proof that the guy had an immense amount of appeal. But the next night's show in Chicago painted a much different picture. Only a mere fraction of the previous night's audience actually showed up in Chicago, and it made Seger realize that fame wasn't as steady as he thought it would be. Still, the best part of Seger's career was yet to come, the peak of his success. Night Moves was an album Seger released in October 1976, but did he know that it would reach the heights of such blinding success? This masterpiece basically catapulted Seger into real stardom, with its title track earning widespread acclaim both critically and commercially, a soaring number 4 hit on the Billboard Pop Singles chart. The album not only resonated deeply with audiences across the nation, but also showed just how talented Seger is as a man. But it was not the only gem in Seger's crown. The album also came out including hits like Main Street, a heartfelt ballad paying tribute to Ann Arbor, and Rock and Roll Never Forgets, which was almost a reflection of Seger's undeniable legacy. Night Moves was a very significant milestone in Seger's career because it earned him his first top 10 album on the Billboard charts and got platinum status with over 6 million copies sold in the United States alone. But that wasn't the end of it. The success of Night Moves made the way for people to start exploring Seger's older albums, and albums like Beautiful Loser and Live Bullet suddenly became famous years after they were actually released. But the bliss never lasts for long. And just like that, in February 1977, Silver Bullet Band drummer Charlie Allen Martin was struck by a car. He was injured to the point that he could never walk again, and David Teagarden stepped in as his replacement. Charlie's loss was a very big deal for the band, but even then, Seger's 1978 album Stranger in Town proved to be another win. The album was brimming with hits like Still the Same, Hollywood Nights, and We've Got Tonight, which became an absolute classic for decades to come, and was even immortalized in a duet by Kenny Rogers and Sheena Easton. But no moment in Seger's career was quite as iconic as the time he released Old Time Rock and Roll, a song that would forever be remembered, along with the Tom Cruise film Risky Business. Though initially peaking at number 28 on the Hot 100, the song's inclusion in the film shot it to new heights of popularity, earning it a place in the legendary list of jukebox classics. In fact, Old Time Rock and Roll became one of the songs of the century. But while the success was undeniable with this track, Seger later regretted his decision not to take a larger share of the songwriting credit. It was a missed opportunity, but Seger learned from it and moved on. And he wasn't just focused on creating brand new original albums. His influence extended beyond his own catalog, as shown by his co-writing credit on the Eagles' #1 hit, Heartache Tonight. This collaboration came out after Seger's and Glenn Frey's shared roots in Detroit came together in 1980. Seger further made his legacy concrete with the release of Against the Wind, an album that topped the charts. It had several collaborations with luminaries like Don Henley, Timothy B. Schmidt, and Glenn Frey. Hits like Fire Lake and the title track Against the Wind came out of this album, and they confirmed that Seger was a musical titan. The album eventually earned him 2 Grammy Awards and further acclaim from fans and critics alike. As of 2006, both Stranger in Town and Against the Wind had sold over 5 million copies each in the United States. While he was absorbing his commercial success, Seger's 1981 live album, 9 Tonight, also came out as a giant success, accompanied by his cover of Eugene Williams' Trying to Live My Life Without You. The album soared to new heights and sold 4 million copies, which confirmed Seger's status as a rock icon whose music will continue to live on for ages. But as Seger enjoyed the glory of his new success, turmoil was brewing within the Silver Bullet Band. In December 1982, Seger released The Distance, a critically acclaimed masterpiece that led to a massive evolution in his sound. But the creation of this album was strained by internal conflicts, with guitarist Drew Abbott leaving the band due to artistic differences. This event made way for Dwayne Bailey to take over the mantle, but Drew wasn't the only one who left. Drummer David Teagarden also bid farewell, leaving a void. But that was also swiftly filled by ex-Grand Funk drummer Don Brewer. Despite the band's unstable situation, The Distance soared to heights nobody had imagined, coming out with hits like Rodney Crowell's Shame on the Moon, which soared to #1 on the adult contemporary chart and held its ground at #2 on the Hot 100. It was a rise unlike any other Seger had seen for himself before, all thanks to his unwavering commitment to his craft and the timeless appeal of his music. In the next few years, Seger's creative output continued without any interruptions, and he made some pretty amazing contributions to film soundtracks like Teachers and About Last Night. But it was the release of Like a Rock in 1986 that truly managed to leave a permanent mark. Equipped with hits like American Storm and the all-time famous track Like a Rock, the album resonated deeply with audiences across the nation, selling over 3 million copies and earning Seger widespread acclaim. So when Seger began his monumental American Storm tour in 1986 and played 105 shows to sold-out crowds, his star continued to rise. All of this success and fame culminated in a coveted star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame in 1987, proof of his influence on music that would last forever. But his presence in pop culture wouldn't have been complete without his foray into the world of cinema. In 1987, he wrote the synth-driven pop-rock anthem Shakedown for the soundtrack of Beverly Hills Cop 2. Unsurprisingly, this sent him right to the top of the charts and earned him an Academy Award nomination for Best Original Song. It was a crowning achievement for Seger, a validation of his unparalleled talent and everlasting dedication to what he loved most, music. After all this time on stage, was he finally nearing the end of his life? As you're about to see, even age couldn't stop him. Seger's later career. The year was 1991 when Bob Seger jumped into uncharted musical territories with his album The Fire Inside. Just like in the old days, despite his efforts, the album struggled to gain traction on the radio or in the music scene dominated by emerging genres. Things repeated themselves in 1995 with his new release, It's a Mystery, and it faced similar challenges in terms of visibility. It did achieve gold certification for selling 500,000 copies, but in the middle of these trials, a glimmer of success emerged in 1994 with the release of Greatest Hits, a compilation album that reached the most unbelievable heights, selling nearly 10 million copies in the United States alone by 2010. Undefeated by the shifting tides of the music industry, Seger was on his way to rock his 1996 tour. He managed to draw massive crowds and ranked among the top North American tours of the year. However, even though he was experiencing one professional triumph after the next, Seger chose to step away from the limelight for a decade, prioritizing time with his family. During this break, he enjoyed his passion for sailing, even winning the Port Huron to Mackinac boat race aboard his sailboat Lightning. On the other hand, in recognition of his contributions to music, Seger was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2004, with Kid Rock delivering the speech, and Governor Jennifer Granholm declaring March 15th as Bob Seger Day in Michigan. Then came 2005, and Seger was back in action, collaborating with Three Doors Down on the song Landing in London. A day later, Seger returned to the music scene with full force to release Face the Promise, a critically acclaimed album that climbed the charts almost as soon as it was out, selling over 1.2 million copies and re-establishing Seger as a platinum-selling artist. The tour that came with this success was met with overwhelming enthusiasm, with tickets selling out within minutes, particularly in his native Michigan, where demand for his performances had never gone down. In 2009, Seger made waves among fans with the release of Early Seger Volume 1, a compilation album that had archival material from the 70s and 80s, along with previously unreleased tracks. His everlasting influence on the music industry was further shown by his collaboration with Kid Rock on the 2010 album Born Free. After a greatly successful arena tour in 2011, Michigan Governor Rick Snyder officially declared May 28th as Bob Seger Day, commemorating over 5 decades of Seger's remarkable musical journey and his dedication to his fans worldwide. It was December 30th, 2011, when Seger stood in the middle of a sold-out spectacle at the Mandalay Bay Events Center in Las Vegas, where another one of his majorly successful tours came to an end. Not long after, he revealed his plans to get back in the studio as he created yet another album set for release in the fall of 2012, followed by an anticipated supporting tour. The stage was set for Seger to succeed in whatever he did. So the year 2012 also brought Seger the prestigious honor of induction into the Songwriters Hall of Fame on June 14th. After this, on January 10th, 2013, Seger made fans immensely happy once again with the announcement of yet another tour across the United States and Canada. To make that happen in 2013, he joined John Fogerty for a duet of Who'll Stop the Rain, which was featured on Fogerty's album Wrote a Song for Everyone. Fast forward to October 2014, and Seger revealed his 17th studio album, titled Ride Out, to the public. This release wasn't alone either. It was accompanied by a wildly successful arena tour spanning the United States and Canada. His valuable contributions continued to bless the music world when on December 22, 2016, he took the stage to perform Heartache Tonight in honor of the Eagles at the Kennedy Center. This was his way of paying a heartfelt tribute to his dear friend Glenn Frey, and it persisted with the release of Glenn's song on January 18, 2017, which was the exact day that marked the first anniversary of Frey's passing. Seger then went out on the Runaway Train tour on August 24, 2017, and although it was cut short due to unforeseen medical issues, it was set to be a giant success regardless. Seger was nearing the part of his life that most fans had been dreading for a while. The end of Seger. The end. Despite the setback, Seger pressed on, announcing his final tour, the Travelin' Man Tour, on September 18, 2018, which turned into reality on November 21, 2019. This marked the end of an era that lasted decades, as Seger said his goodbyes to the stage for good. But this wasn't a decision that came out of nowhere. Bob had long contemplated stepping away from the stage, but every time something stopped him from quitting. In a 2011 interview with the Detroit Free Press, he hinted at the inevitability of aging and suggested that his touring days might be numbered. The notion came up once again during his 2017 tour in support of his album I Knew You When, with many venues promoting it as possibly his very last tour. When a ruptured disc and subsequent emergency surgery forced him to pause, he had no idea if he'd ever return to the stage to see his fans again. Seger insisted he wouldn't perform unless he felt 100% fit. Here's the thing. The strain of the touring lifestyle had been a recurring theme throughout his career, evident as far back as his 1980 hit Against the Wind, where he questioned the toll of constant travel. Later, during an interview commemorating the 45th anniversary of his albums Live Bullet and Night Moves, Seger was deeply emotional when he opened up about retiring, particularly after the passing of his dear friend and saxophonist Alto Reed. Reed had succumbed to colon cancer in December 2023 when he was just 72. Seger's voice quivered as he recounted Reed's gratitude for his life, admitting he found it challenging to envision touring without his friend. Several prior tours had been billed as farewell outings, including the Roll Me Away tour in 2019, which raked in nearly $100 million. But this time, Seger was serious about the end of his touring days. The magic end had arrived. Reflecting on his career, Seger expressed gratitude for the joy music brought him, despite the hardships of life on the road. But what has Seger managed to achieve in all this time? Seger's legacy. When it comes to Seger's personal and romantic life, it has definitely seen its share of ups and downs. His first marriage to Renee Andretti in 1968 lasted just 1 day short of a year. After that, he got into a long-term relationship with John Dinsdale from 1972 to 1983, but even that eventually came to an end. In 1987, he got married to actress Annette Sinclair, only for the marriage to dissolve a year later. Finally, in 1993, Seger found lasting love with Juanita Doriot as they got married in a small private ceremony at the Village Club in Bloomfield Hills. Together, they welcomed 2 children into the world. Despite retirement, Seger's legacy continues to live on, and he even briefly returned from retirement on October 22, 2023, to perform at the Country Music Hall of Fame in Nashville. He did it to pay homage to Patti Loveless with a cover of She Drew a Broken Wing, and as a testament to his enduring influence, Rolling Stone bestowed upon him the esteemed title of the 181st greatest singer of all time in 2023, ensuring that Seger's legacy would live on for generations to come. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.